All right. First episode of Popcorn and Piledrivers that we're doing live on YouTube. John LaRocca is here with me. We're going to review No Holds Barred. Now, let's circle back to the summer of 1989. How excited were you to watch this movie?
Pretty excited. I remember, calling my buddy chatting, I think his cousin was in town. Asked if we want to go to the movies, and we got dropped off at the movie theater to go see it. And pretty stoked, man. I was probably at that time more into wrestling than he was. He's starting to move out of wrestling, but I was still like just gung ho. Like I can't wait to see it. So it was a lot of fun. I remember that night. On Almaden in San Jose Theater, the old Almaden Theater.
The Almaden. Is it the Almaden Twin? Is that what it was called?
I believe so. Now it's like a church, I believe.
Okay, so I had a very interesting relationship with this movie because I followed a lot of the trades, right? I was always reading the reviews. I was reading like all of like the folks who are writing about movies. I was reading their reviews. I was reading their recaps. I was kind of reading the hype. And they all were saying this movie is going to be really bad. Not that I thought it was going to be good. I was just crossing my fingers that it was going to be like not terrible, because, and this kind of goes back to when we're kids, wrestling has a stigma, right? It has less of a stigma today, but it still has a stigma. Like if you go into like a social circle and you're like, oh yeah, what is kind of one of the things that you like to do? And if you say watch wrestling, someone, unless they're also an active viewer, they may go, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like wrestling, huh? Back in 1989, it was even worse. Even though WWF at the time was like super popular, like everybody knew who Hulk Hogan was, or it's a majority of people, but there was still a stigma about actual professional wrestling. And I just remember like just hoping and begging and pleading that this movie was going to be good. And I knew it was going to be bad when it didn't even hit the first run theater. So the Almaden Twin, for people who don't know, the Almaden Twin is a discount theater.
Yeah.
My version of the discount theater was the Gould Cinema.
I never heard that one. As a kid, I didn't know what Almaden Cinema was, the quote unquote discount cinema. It was just the movie theater that we went to.
So the Gould Cinema, it was, I believe, I want to say it was only like $2 to get in or something like that back then. And there was like a stench in the theater. Like you had to deal with like this like boys' locker room stench in the theater in order to watch these movies. So once I saw that was the first run, like it skipped like the Centuries and it skipped like Capitol Drive-In and all that stuff. I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. But I still watched it. I still went out. I still supported it. I still watched Rip. I was Team Rip in this movie. And but yeah, like that was it was a moment that as a kid, I was just hoping it was going to be a better moment than it was. But we'll break down the entire thing. But if you are old enough, like John and I, to have seen No Holds Barred in the theater, first run, shoot me an email, gg@fightgamemedia.com, or if you're in the chat and you're watching, or on Twitter, let me know. I'm very interested to see who saw this movie like we did back in 1989. All right, so let's talk a little bit about kind of the cast and like the people who are involved in this movie. So Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan, it is essentially their project. So Vince, he's trying to get into movies. As we know, the history of Vince is, he's a very successful wrestling guy, the most successful wrestling guy ever. But there was always this wanting to be legitimate, like outside of wrestling. We saw it with the XFL, giant failure. We saw it with the WBF. Even though bodybuilding is like even more niche than wrestling, like it was just a different idea that he had. Absolute failure.
Boxing match.
Danny Lalonde and Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yep.
That was not a successful pay-per-view. So this is another one of those things. which is no holds barred, putting a movie out there and utilizing his biggest star, who, from 1985 to 1990 was like a household name. Like most people, even if you weren't a fan of pro wrestling, you kind of knew the name of Hulk Hogan. Like that's how successful he was. You wouldn't say you would not hear the same thing about Roman Reigns today. You would about The Rock. The Rock is obviously a successful movie actor, but Roman Reigns, biggest star in wrestling, Cody Rhodes, those aren't household names necessarily. Hulk Hogan was a household name. So that's how big he was. And that's why this movie essentially got made. Okay, so the characters in this movie. Hulk Hogan plays Rip. In the original script, he was Ripper. So when they actually created the movie, they shortened it to Rip. I think the last name is Thomas, though there's no mention of Thomas, I don't believe, in the movie. Kurt Fuller, you are a fan of Kurt Fuller.
Yes.
He plays Brell, who is the television executive, who is kind of supposed to be Ted Turner, but built like Vince McMahon. Like it's an interesting amalgam of two guys together. But he's like Ted Turner is essentially who he is. We have Joan Severance. You and I are big fans of Joan Severance as Sam. What did Joan Severance do before this movie? I can't remember her doing anything.
I was looking up her filmography. I don't remember her. Like a lot of TV appearances, a lot of TV like one-off episodes of stuff. Nothing. I think she ended up doing a series later on. I think post this, but she still was acting. I think till I want to say 2019, or maybe she still is. I'm trying to remember. I think she seemed pretty active in her career.
So about 6 months, or maybe a little bit less, after this movie comes out, she does a Playboy spread that is excellent for my 13-year-old eyes at that point.
Whoa,
or
whatever
it was. Yeah. 1990.
Right,
she did a Playboy spread.
I gotta look to the channels.
So we have Tiny Lister as Zeus. Tiny Lister would become more famous for Friday. He plays Debo in Friday, but his real, he'd done some smaller stuff, but he is Zeus, and he gets a run with Hulk Hogan in late 1989. And we're talking about business for SummerSlam, and we'll kind of get to that match. The business for SummerSlam is not far off from WrestleMania, which was Hogan and Savage, the mega powers exploding. Like the pay-per-view number for that show was not that far off, which tells you how successful Zeus was as a character to face Hulk Hogan. But the whole aspect of how they bring him in is wacky as all hell. And, we complain a lot about the storytelling of, and sort of the mixing of like real life and wrestling storylines with AEW. This one takes the cake, and this is, but it was so successful. All right. Mark Pellegrino as Randy, who is Hulk Hogan's younger brother. The two became closer after both of their parents were hurt in a car accident or something like that, right?
The storyline, right? Yeah. God, they must have said that quickly. I don't even think I remember. I know he's there by his side when he got hurt, so I know Hogan was there. Rip was.
No. Bill Henderson is Charlie the trainer. He is like the Mickey, but he doesn't have a very big part. Yeah. He's just kind of like Hogan's trainer. And David Paymer as Unger. What is your favorite David Paymer role?
He's been in so much stuff. He kind of just pops in a lot of movies, right? So I don't know. I'm trying to think anything that stands out. But he's like a character actor that you see. Yeah. He just pops up and you're like, oh, he's like, there he is again,
Bill Simmons does a movie podcast that we rip off for this show. He's created a nice template to do this kind of thing called the Rewatchables. David Paymer, he would describe as one of like that guy. Like you just watch a movie, you're like, oh, it's that guy. I remember that guy.
Yes.
My favorite David Paymer role Mr. Saturday Night alongside Billy Crystal. Very underrated Billy Crystal comedy. It's a little depressing, which is I think why it's not as often remembered as like one of Billy
Starker, yeah.
Crystal's classics. But I just remember seeing that movie at the theaters, and I was dying laughing in this movie. David Paymer plays his brother. Also, Charles Levin plays Ordway. So Unger and Ordway are basically Brel,
Stooges.
the Stooges, but Brel's Stooges. They just do whatever he says. And then what about Bill Eadie as Jake Bullitt? He's in the very first scene of the movie as the baddie that Hogan has to beat as Rip.
Yeah, I remember like, oh, that's Axe. Like I remember like looking at that screen, you know, me and my friends and maybe like 2 other people in the theater. We watched this damn thing. I remember like just his hair all froed out, right?
Yeah. It's like standing straight up.
No makeup. So
It's kind of got that like something about Mary's hairstyle. With Cameron Diaz, like it's just standing like straight up.
So other than earlier in his career, before he was a Mongol, before he was the Masked Superstar, before he was Under Paint and Demolition Axe, this might be the most like one of the rare appearances with him out makeup on, other than a little guy liner. He had a little guy liner on, you know.
Yeah. And so Stan Hansen is also in this movie. I don't even remember his character's name, but
he was just like the bar brother bully that street fight guy, I guess.
Yeah, Brel is. We'll talk about it, but Brel's trying to find this like big star for his TV character, and Stan Hansen is kind of the leader in the clubhouse until he has to face off against Zeus. All right, so the director is a man by the name of Thomas J. Wright. I'll read from his Wikipedia page. Thomas J. Wright is an American television director, film director, artist, and set designer. Wright has directed episodes of Smallville, One Tree Hill, Firefly, and many other programs. He also worked extensively on Chris Carter's Millennium, on which he was a producer, as well as directing 26 of the show's 67 episodes. He also directed the 1989 Hulk Hogan film, No Holds Barred. He was also the artist who created the paintings used in the television horror anthology series Night Gallery. Thomas J. Wright. Smallville. That's a show that you were a big fan of.
Yes, yeah, a lot of those. Firefly too as well.
And the writer is a man by the name of Dennis Hacken, though as we kind of get into like a little bit of the internet research, the information I was able to find, Hogan and Vince have like a different story about the writing of this film. Dennis Hacken, according to IMDb, best known for Bronco Billy in 1980 and Wanda Nevada in 1979. I've never seen either of those pictures.
No.
All right, so what is the story here? Now, there's an interesting ecosystem to No Holds Barred. It is there's a WWF element to this movie, and then there's like the movie canon element to this movie. Jesse Ventura and Mean Gene Okerlund are their real selves in this movie. They are the WWF announcers for the matches. Wrestling is presented as a television show that cares about ratings, though, according to Brel, it's sort of real. Like, there's this weird mix of, like, is it real or is it fake? And you see some of the mechanisms of wrestling being fake, but then there are other aspects of it where they sort of believe that it's real. So there's a weird balance there.
And it's their show, the wrestling show on the other network is the top show in the world, or United States at least, right?
Yeah, there's somebody who had posted on the Wrestling Observer message board. He had posted this long diatribe about, I guess he had a copy of the script, and I have a couple of tidbits to what he said in there, but he had talked about like the ratings that Brel was spewing out would put it up in that time frame, like up against the Cosby Show. Like it was like Cosby Show and Cheers level ratings.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, Cheers level for sure. Yeah.
All right, so the first match is Hogan against as Rip against Bill Eadie. And Brell, he's looking for the hit. He wants that. He wants the ratings that Rip delivers. And so the whole movie is based on the idea that he's trying to steal Rip from, I think like essentially he wrestles for the TV studio, like the NTN or something like that. Like that's,
and then Burrell's like the World Television Network or something, right?
Yeah,
Something generic.
Yeah. So he's trying to steal Rip by signing him, giving him whatever he wants to take it to bring him to his network. But according to those who know him well, not only is Rip under contract, but this is a great late 80s phrase. His word is his bond.
Yeah.
So Brell, like I mentioned, is this amalgam of Ted Turner built like Vince McMahon and like with the temper of a Vince McMahon. And as I was watching this, I thought, if this movie actually had a little bit more sex, this would have been perfect for USA Up All Night. I think this would have got major run with Rhonda Shear on USA Up All Night.
Perfect. Yeah, it would definitely be perfect. Yeah.
It would have been great. And that was like for John and I when we're growing up as young teenagers, if you didn't have HBO, if you didn't have like, you could kind of turn it to the Playboy channel, but like it would be like scrambled. So you could kind of hear it, but you couldn't really see it. Mm-hmm. USA Up All Night was kind of the thing. Like if you're up late and you're like,
yeah,
oh, kind of want to watch, the Kentucky Fried Movie because there's going to be like a hint of like some sexuality, like not even sexuality, like just a hint, like just like a little tease. And
just Rhonda Shear was enough to tune in at the time. And I was like,
and Elvira, you remember Elvira? When she was on there as well? So that is the style of movie. It is very much, what we used to sort of, we would call them B movies, right? Which were not like this giant, not a lot of money behind it. So you kind of shortcut here and there some certain actors who were prevalent in B movies. Like this was actually closer to a B movie, the way that it was put together than like this giant, 1989 Batman comes out, right? Like giant hit. I think Roadhouse wasn't a giant hit, but like kind of like the same style of like action and violence and like, but that had a little bit more of a budget behind it than something like No Holds Barred did.
Do you think this would have done better in 85, 86 than 89?
I don't know if they could have actually made it in 1985 or 1986, because I think the reason why Vince can make this movie is because we are in a post WrestleMania 3 era where he's actually, making a lot of money with the business. But you're talking about more from the time frame of what movies were like in 1985.
Yeah, because like Action Jackson came out. I love that movie, by the way. It's like I adore it. But I don't know.
Vanity.
Vanity. Yeah. Speaking of sex appeal, movies like that. It's a lot of Steven Seagal stuff. I think at the time was, granted not as cheesy as this, but I think there was a little more of like just action film kind of like kind of leeway. It doesn't matter the script as long as there's action and excitement. But I don't know. I was wondering if it's kind of like if it would have done better later on or earlier on.
That's interesting. I almost wonder also, like, because Hogan revisits his movie career in, what was it, 91? Was Suburban Commando 91?
Yeah, 90. Yeah, it had to be 91 because he probably started filming right after WrestleMania 6, after he lost to Warrior.
And in 1989, he was way more famous than he was in like 91 and 92. And then we get to 96, and then his fame kind of comes back again. But Yeah, that's actually interesting. This just the timing of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So Brell, he hires, or he fires his female. Like he has this like board meeting. And he's like trying to get ideas for his network. Like he's trying to get some hits. Like just let's brainstorm. And there's some interesting ideas, and this is why I feel that this is Vince. A woman sort of speaks up, and he immediately fires her, like right then and there. And it made me kind of wonder, like, how often did someone just come up with an idea in Vince's world, and he's just like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard."
Yeah.
And then eventually just fire that person for that. Like there's supposed to be like no bad ideas in a brainstorm, but unfortunately in this aspect that there was, so the female writer gets fired. So he believes that Rip would actually sell more than sitcoms and game shows. And so again, this is not like WWF owning the rights to the character. It is like the TV network owning the rights to the character, which is kind of interesting. Like Vince McMahon was able to eliminate WWF, and he really made it about like TV network versus TV network, which is kind of, it was a little weird. I was like, I wonder why this movie wasn't about, WCW trying to steal from WWF. It's like TV network to TV network.
Yeah, maybe because his mind, he's more feud with Ted Turner than he is with WCW. Ted Turner owned WCW in '89. So, or maybe that was the way to kind of get around. Like, wouldn't just people think this guy has a contract and he can't get out of it? So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
So Brell gets a meeting with Rip. Rip is wearing essentially like his like long wrestling tights, like the Hogan spandex
It was like a
wardrobe.
Mr. T A-Team slash Michael Jackson slash get up.
Yeah. And so he turns down Brell, and Brell gets very upset. Like, this is Vince McMahon attacking Harley Race in 19 before Starrcade. Like, he's like, I can't believe you turned me down. I'm gonna try and double leg you. And old Harley's like, I could have really broke this dude's neck if I wanted to, but I let him live. So he gives Rip a blank check, and he's like, put any amount on it. You got it. Whatever it is, you got it. And Rip still bails. So he's really mad. And this is where he enters a certain terminology into American language, and it didn't take off, surprisingly. He calls him a jock ass.
Jock ass, yeah.
Jock ass. Were you surprised that jock ass never took off in our vernacular?
No, then again, I thought slap nuts was going to take off in our vernacular. But
Jeff Jarrett. Imagine if Jeff Jarrett tried to bring jock ass back.
He should have in WCW 2000. Maybe they would have lasted another couple of years.
So I do wonder if that was like a Vince term, right? Like, is that Vince like going like, oh, I got this great term that we can put in the movie?
Sounds like it. Yeah, definitely.
So Rip takes the check and like shoves it down Brell's throat, like very intimidating. And so Brell's appalled. So Rip gets back in the limo, and the limo driver is a little bit on the take here. Rip understands that the limo driver's not taking him where he needs to go, so he starts like kicking like the door, and his legs are so strong that he kicks the door, and it actually veers the limo. Like the limo driver cannot control the steering wheel because this kicking is so strong. So he's also not wearing a seatbelt, so he's like kind of rolling around in the back there.
And it's like this voice over 80s.
Yeah, just nothing but grunts. And, yeah. So the limo stops in a warehouse, and I wonder if this is where WWE got the idea or maybe WCW. I can't remember who started when the Rey Mysterio coming from the bottom
Oh,
and
that
like
was
jumping
Yeah,
up, right? From kind of just jumping up out of
yeah,
the stage
WWE,
because
yeah.
Rip, after this car stops, he somehow jumps through. I'm assuming it's a moonroof. I don't think that he busted through the top of the limo,
I and
but
how big that moonroof was, like, is
but it's almost like he was like booyaka booyaka, and he just
yeah.
jumps out of the top of the limo, and that means that shit's on. He's ready to fight, and he's got to fight through a lot of people.
Mhm.
So all the bad guys, this is like a wrestling match. Like all the heels, Rip is in the middle. The heels come forward and they just run into his fist essentially in this fight. And he grabs the limo driver and he's doing this weird grunting noise, like this snorting grunting noise. And so the limo driver is so scared.
Oh, good.
And we get, which is I'm gonna spoil it when we get to quotes. This is the number one quote
Oh, man.
of the movie. And he all of a sudden he's really mad at this guy. This guy's scared, and he kind of sniffs around. He's like, "What's that smell?" And the limo driver's answer is Dookie. He pooped himself because he was so scared of Rip, and that is really how we kick this movie off. It is Dookie.
Yeah.
All right. So we get to meet the very lovely Joan Severance. She
Ooh.
is Hogan's new account executive as Sam. Hogan hears the name Sam, Rip hears the name Sam, and he thinks it's just some random dude. And when he realizes Sam is actually short for Samantha, he kind of gets the goo-goo eyes for her. Now, I wanted to ask you this because there is a way that they deal with the Rip character, and I'm assuming it's because Hogan as Hulk Hogan is really for the kids. He can't really play like Mac Daddy on her. He's got to
Mhm.
play like really dumb about a woman and being
Yeah.
very attractive. And it plays really oddly to me. It's just like it's almost like the Rip character is like scared of women in a sense. And
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah.
really a weird dynamic for the entire film. Though as we get through the plot, there are moments where they kind of dig each other, but early on it's just like, oh, I like today, if we saw this Rip character in a movie today, immediately people would go, oh, he's just gay. Like he doesn't he doesn't like women. He's the superstar wrestler who's gay because it's very clear that Sam is into him and he's like
Mhm.
so oblivious to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I this might have been a
And-
little bit of rewrites happened. But yeah, I think also you think about Vince McMahon and how he booked male wrestlers with female wrestlers, like oh my, like there's a lot of just recently a couple years ago, Brooke Jensen being a virgin,
yeah,
with
yeah.
so you can see maybe some of that in their writing coming through here on the script.
So so they have this little tete-a-tete, and she's trying to pitch him for merchandising, and he tries to kind of make, he's like, I'm Rip, like, I'm fine. Like, why do I need this person? And so, in order for her to sell him on the idea that she's actually going to be a valuable person to his, the whole Rip character, they decide to go out to dinner, and she makes this comment that it's dressy. So, don't
Yeah.
come in your bandana and your and your Mr. T outfit here, buddy. So she takes him to a French restaurant and she goes super bougie on him. Wrestler. Oh, this dude must only go to McDonald's, and so she's just like, trying to like show him up a little bit. And so the garçon did not recognize who he was. And so the joke is that the chef actually had to come out and apologize to Rip because Rip is actually a regular at this restaurant. He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you want what you usually have?" And so the Sam character, Joan Severance, is like, "Oh, like the joke's on me here." So in the original script, in this scene, supposedly Rip goes into the kitchen and starts directing the cooking and like running the show in the kitchen.
Weird.
Like this Rip guy could do no wrong. He's a man of many talents. I'm glad that they took that out of the script. So Brell and his cronies, his underlings, they go to this outlaw bar, and there's like a tough man contest going on. And they see Stan Hansen, and they make Stan Hansen like the grossest human possible. So
Or this is like every 80s stereotype of a dive bar, a tough dive bar.
Yeah. So it's called they do a little, they have like a roped off, I guess it kind of looked like an octagon, but it had ropes around it. And it was called the Battle of the Tough Guys. And so Stan Hansen makes fun of David Paymer and Charles Levin's characters because they all have to use the restroom. And he takes a look down yonder as they are trying to urinate in this horse's trough. And of course, you get the small dick joke for these executives. And so then they're there to look for talent. Like Brell is trying to replicate or kind of recreate what the competition has with Rip and the wrestling. And so they're looking for talent, and then Zeus comes by, and they're just in awe of this giant man. Now Zeus supposedly, I don't know if this is true. I was going to save this for our internet research 411 area, but supposedly they did an audition, and Vince did the wrestling thing on him. When they decided that Zeus was going to be the guy, he basically told him like, "Yeah, just come back. When you come back, make sure you chest a little bigger, shoulders a little bigger." So when Tiny Lister comes back, he comes back 20 pounds heavier and even more jacked than he was when he did the audition. Vince didn't tell him how to get bigger, though. He just told him to get bigger.
Well, he said, "This is my friend Kevorkian. He'll help you with the final paperwork."
So Hogan's trainer is watching Zeus on this televised.
Not Kevorkian, Zaharian. What was the guy's
Zaharian.
Kevorkian probably was going to kill him.
Yeah. Kevorkian is putting people to sleep.
Oh, man. It's been a wild Memorial Day. Let me tell you that.
So Hogan's trainer had once trained Zeus and says that Zeus killed someone after the match and he went to jail. And so this guy, this is where the fake versus real thing, like we're kind of confused about what's going on. And Hogan has a concerned look on his face. And Zeus wins the tryout. So he wins the 100K in the Battle of the Tough Guys. So they put this thing on TV, and Brell is getting lots of hate mail from the viewers. Like, this is not cool. Why are you putting this on TV? Which is total Vince. Like you imagine, Vince reacting to some angle that they had done, for heat and getting hate mail and reacting to it. So Zeus has to face Jeep Swenson in week 2, the giant man. And he he evades a sledgehammer, which made me wonder if that's where Triple H got the idea to bring a sledgehammer in the ring.
Yeah, he's called Sledgehammer something, right? This guy's character, yeah.
So now in the Battle of the Tough Guys, like wrestling is kind of real, or maybe a sledgehammer is like a steel chair in this version of wrestling. But yeah, this was like either you move out of the way or you die. This is the type of thing we're dealing with. So Rip and Sam, they need to have another outing, and Rip is like, no more of this bougie stuff. I'm gonna take you to like the hometown spot, and they go to a diner, and um, it's Rip's favorite diner, and it just so happens that while they're at this diner, some robbers come in with guns, and they want to
Yeah.
rob this diner. Now, maybe this diner was like the most successful diner in the land, but this would not be the place that you would imagine being robbed. I can't imagine that they had a lot of money in the till there, but
Broad daylight.
yeah, and so of course, who's the one who saves the day? But none other than Rip. And it's not like a serious display of heroism. It's more of a comedy bit because involved in this fight is Hogan throwing some food at the bad guys to get them, to get them off of him. So this is a scene right out of porn, I'm guessing. Like they have to go to a hotel, and of course, the only room left is a hotel. In this hotel is one with one single bed, and
with all
these
their
are
with all their money, how they that's like a look like a Motel 6,
yes.
or
This is the most
Easy
famous
8.
the most famous television character going. He's pulling Cosby ratings and Cheers ratings,
Yeah.
and it's the only hotel that's got some vacancy, and they have to stay in the same room. Rip, the way that Rip deals with these like slightly uncomfortable scenarios is just with jokes, and which is not great for Sam because she wants him to kind of be a little bit more into her, but instead he's telling jokes, and so she's kind of bothered. So he decides, she's playing hard to get, and he decides to take athletic tape out of his bag and split the bed in two. He basically takes the athletic tape all the way across the room to the other side, and this is how he splits the bed. So Sam stays on her side, Rip stays on his side. She's comfortable, and he's not worried about having to put the moves on her. So she wakes up to some panting and some fast like movement, and she thinks that he's brought somebody onto the other side of the bed and he's getting busy. And if you're thinking of like Rip being like this giant star, this like famous person, you're like, oh yeah, maybe like that. Maybe he's he kind of brought somebody back to the
Or
room.
maybe he's
Nope.
just relieving some stress. You never know.
Or relieving some stress. Nope, he's doing push-ups. But she pulls back the curtain, and when she sees him doing push-ups, it almost looks like like a bare ass, like on
Yeah.
top of
Yeah.
somebody. So she's just like appalled, and the bed breaks of all times, and so she does a little bit of a barrel roll, kind of like a video of Tony Khan after Double or Nothing when
Ugh.
Jack Perry grabbed him and Tony Khan had to barrel roll down the stage.
Should have been on the
So
pay-per-view. I would have given it a thumbs up if that was on there.
yeah.
But
So Sam kind of barrel rolls into Rip's arms, and Rip's getting a kick out of it, but Sam's not. Like Rip's having fun with it, but Sam's appalled, and she thinks that he's just being a dude, and so he gets offended at her thinking that he's not being a nice guy. And so he throws a fit, and he's like, I'm gonna go sleep on the couch in the hotel lobby or whatever.
now,
So
in the 80s,
go
was
ahead.
those shorts popular to wear that he was wearing?
I
mean, they were just
shorts. They're like
yeah,
some
those
like
are barely.
satin short boxers or something, right?
I don't think they
Barely
were
covering the cheeks.
boxers. Yeah, exactly. He was showing more butt than Tony Storm, or Tiffany Stratton.
He was and okay, so I'm glad you brought that up because I was wondering at the
Oh,
same
good
time.
shit. Oh, good.
I was wondering. Now we saw this with The Rock. The Rock has, because he is so giant and looks like a superhero without CGI, he can't really play the ladies' man, right? Because you don't really take him serious as a ladies' man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way Hogan could play the ladies' man, even though he's in like, satin bikini shorts, And so I was just wondering, like, why isn't he just like wearing like basketball shorts or something? Like, what was the reason for those
Yeah,
shorts?
I just think Hogan wanted to show the tan off the legs, brother. You know what I mean? Had a good leg day that day or something.
I guess. So it turns out, and this has to be where Ready to Rumble copied the storyline. Turns out Sam is actually hired by Brell to bring him to the network. Like, she's got to use her sexuality and get close to him
Mhm.
and entice him to come to the network. But she is feeling a little guilty, and she basically says, that I can't do it anymore. And here's another thing out of Vince. This might have been Vince telling on himself. I hope not. But Brell slaps her right in the face as a way to say, I'm the one in charge. You're supposed to do what I say. I was like, this isn't like 1965. Like, this is 1989. He just smacks her
Mhm.
right in the face. So of course she feels really guilty. She's just been hit by this giant man right in the face. And of course, she goes to Rip to ask and beg for forgiveness. So she's just been abused, physically abused by the TV executive. And this is the moment where they have their first kiss. I thought that was really weird.
Very weird, very awkward, and it gets awkward later on too as well. Like
Yes.
with another scene that happens.
So Hogan is at a charity event. Maybe it's at a high school or some school. And there's a helicopter that comes in with Brell and Zeus, and they challenge him right on the spot to a fight.
Rocky 3
Yes.
stole it. Yeah, they stole that from Rocky, I'm sure.
And, Rip has got to, he can't just fight him right then and there. It's nothing but the kids. He's a charity. He's doing things for charity. He's a good guy. He's got to protect the kids, and they've got to hold off. They cannot fight there. Sam gets kidnapped and almost raped.
Yes. Well, not almost. Well, they attempted, yes.
Attempted
Yeah.
rape,
Attempted rape, yes.
which was wild, and just like it was one of those things where I was like, I don't remember this part, and I can't believe it. Rip has his Harley, shows up wearing a satin Rip'em jacket. I kind of wanted that jacket. The jacket was really nice. It was
That's
like
pretty
it was
cool.
like the old starter jackets that we used to wear back in the day.
Mhm. Yeah.
So he's got to save her, and they do some stunts with the motorcycles and sending dudes flying off the motorcycles and such. So we finally get to see Brother Randy again. And Brother Randy is at one of these tapings for the wrestling matches. And Zeus is going crazy, just beating up everybody. So Brell sees Randy at one of these matches. Zeus attacks little Randy and leaves him laying. Now,
Mhm.
this made me wonder, is his name Randy because of Randy Savage?
That's pretty funny. I didn't think about that.
I mean,
Like a
Randy
little rib.
Savage is, yeah. Randy Savage is like the little brother to
That's
Hulk
funny.
Hogan.
That is funny. I didn't think about that. But yeah, that is wow. Especially at 89, right? Man, that's why Savage was involved in the match. He just got pissed. He was cast as his little brother.
So, the Randy is in the hospital. He's all beat up, and Rip goes to the gym to find Zeus, but there's no Zeus. And Randy is in such bad shape that he had to go into the Bacta tank.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is like Darth Vader.
Well, he was paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if this was what we were supposed to believe, but in the original script, he's supposed to be paralyzed on the left side. And the way that you were supposed to know that his brother inspired him was that he would do the rip 'em sign with his left hand, because you could
Mhm.
only do the rip 'em sign with your left hand. And so I don't think that
Yeah.
was explained in the movie, but in the original script, that was supposed to be like the end thing is you see Randy doing the rip 'em sign with the left hand, and that says that he's better. He's not paralyzed anymore. So hey, this is like
It's deep
real
stuff.
storytelling here, man.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
like they're setting traps. You're supposed to, this is some really good stuff. So so the network is very happy with Brell because the ratings for this Battle of the Tough Guys stuff is on fire. And then he's got like, one really smart executive that goes, this is really good, but what if Rip beats Zeus? Then the other
Mhm.
network has the winner, and your guy loses. And so again, is wrestling fake? Is wrestling not
Yeah.
fake? But you've essentially built up the contender for the other show. So that is probably not the greatest booking. Brell somehow, some way would have had to have worked out a finish that worked out for his side too. But maybe this was like Ali and Oki, and they just couldn't figure it out,
I don't
and
I don't
you end
I
up with
don't
a
think
shoot.
I don't think it was ever I don't think it was really talked about being fake, like wrestling was fake or not real. I think it was just wrestling was real. Zeus character after a match ended up beating someone so bad he killed him, and this was a real fight. Burrell's just super confident Zeus is going to kill Hogan or destroy Hogan or beat Hogan, but the executive was like, no, what if the other guy, what if Hogan's the one that, or excuse me, Rip beats
Yeah,
Zeus?
he's the only smart guy in the whole thing.
Yeah,
And so then, uh, as this match is going to happen, Rip accepts this match. He's got to do it for his brother. So before the match even happens, and this happens like at a TV studio that I don't know, there are 50 people in the building. It's like smaller than the
yeah,
NXT gym.
yeah.
So of course, Sam gets kidnapped, and this is how Brell kind of sets up the thing to make sure that his guy wins. He basically says that Rip has to take a dive, or else he's going to kill Joan or
Yeah.
kill Sam. So there's some high stakes poker being played here in this in this television studio match. So Joan or Joan Severance as Sam, she's very smart because the Keystone Cops who are supposed to hold her hostage are too interested in watching this match because the match is so exciting, and she escapes, and she's got to run in these heels, which I felt really bad for her. It's just like it's like just like in wrestling, the women are all dolled up, and then they got to fight.
Yeah.
Then something happens, breaks down, and they got to fight in these heels. So what I found interesting is the studio that they're actually doing the wrestling in is like everything that Vince McMahon hates. It's like small studio, no real
Hmm.
crowd. Like that had to be a shot at WCW at the time. Small audience.
Yeah. Unless it was supposed to be like this, like high rollers only kind of like select few can get in deal. But yeah, I thought it was weird that it wasn't like a bigger arena, like something from like you said, like Rocky or yeah, it was a small
He should
little,
have Donald. He should have
center
Donald
stage
Trump in the front
studio, even
row.
smaller than that.
Um.
Now he's off doing Little Rascals.
All right. So this match. This match is wild. Zeus tries to kill Rip by taking the ring post and stabbing him with it. This just wanted to put it right
Hmm.
through him, just end him. Let's get out of here. Let's end this thing quick. Uh, then he does what he would actually bring to the WWF ring is he grabs him by his chin and his neck, and he twists his neck, the neck twist. He does that.
Yeah.
And then he goes after the old coach, who was his old coach. And while all this stuff is happening, poor Randy in his wheelchair, rooting on Big Bro, he's just crying. Like that was the emotion. Was
Yeah.
just crying, just tears. He couldn't take it anymore. So we get to see now Rip as Hulk Hogan as Rip. He doesn't do any Hulk Hogan mannerisms. He doesn't do the point the finger. He does this hand sign, which is kind of like a hang loose sign, but it's not exactly hang loose sign because his fingers are kind of crooked. That's the Rip 'em sign. But in this match with Zeus, he does Hulk up. You get to see a hulking up. He finally body slams this dude. But his finisher as Rip is the Axe Bomber. So his old New Japan finish. So he basically Axe Bombers Zeus to death. Like Zeus takes this fall like far down, and you assume that he just dies. But he crawls back up. Crawls back up, gets axe bombed off of the stage and into the ring, which looked like it was like a 10 or 15 foot fall, and just takes like the craziest bump in the ring.
Do you think Vince McMahon showed him that? Like, this is easy, kid. Just like gotta do it, like he did, Gronk at WrestleMania.
Gronk at WrestleMania showed him how to take the bump.
Yep.
So then this is when Rip goes after Brell. So Brell's in the studio, and he sees Rip coming at him, and he just keeps backpedaling and backpedaling and backpedaling. And he backpedals all the way into the tape machine. And I guess there's like some random wire that is just live and active.
Yeah.
And he gets electrocuted to death.
Killed the promoter. They killed the guy.
So Rip basically sends Zeus to his death. And Brell is electrocuted to death. So Hogan, blood on Hogan's hands for 2 deaths as the Rip character.
And he doesn't even want to save him.
No.
Sometimes like in a hero movie like this, the hero's like, even though the guy's bad, he wants to save him, still. But no, he just like, oh, well, like just walks off while this guy's get electrocuted.
Yeah, because he's going to go find his brother.
Yeah.
And he's got to go find Sam, who is his new lady. I guess.
I don't blame him actually now. No, I don't blame him now. Just go find Sam.
And that is how the movie ends. But as the movie ends and the credits play, we get to hear the great Jim Johnston No Holds Barred theme song. So
yeah.
So
he got the music credit on the show.
Yes, he did. All right, now let's get to quotes. Like I said, the winner of the quote is "What's that smell, Dookie?" And then Rip looking at him, going,
"That's the one,
Dookie." That's the quote. But there's a couple other ones. Yeah. So we go to the Outlaw Bar. Stan Hansen's character, his sister is the waitress, and the waitress at one point tells the cronies, tells the underlings of Brell, "I'd like to get laid, relayed, and parlayed, but that's not going to happen here." Marketing this movie to kids.
Yeah.
Marketing this movie to
kids.
Was
just like, at that age, I think.
What does getting parlayed mean though? I only think of
never played that game in the casino.
Yeah, parlay is like a bet. So I don't know, parlay. Yeah. I guess there's another meaning for parlay. I don't know. I guess just rhymed. So back to the diner where Hogan breaks up the robbers who come in to try to stick up the joint. There's a waitress who he's friendly with, and when he asks the waitress after he stops the robbery, he asks her if she's okay, and she goes, "Yep, I'm fine as frog's hair." And anybody who's listened to the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast, that was one of his favorite lines. He would always say, "Fine as frog hair." And I guess, the runner-up, if you wanted to add another one, would just be all of Rip and Zeus's grunting, because there's a lot of grunting in this movie.
The best grunts is the limo scene where they have him captured, and he's just flying all over. It's hard.
Is there a favorite scene in this movie? Like, is there a scene where you thought, that's actually pretty good, or something memorable? I guess other than the Dookie scene, because the Dookie scene is the most memorable for me.
The most memorable.
I mean, that's the one that we would always do with our friends, right? We would do that what's that smell line with them.
For me, when I used to think about No Holds Barred, I always remember the Hogan going into the gym, Zeus's gym, and destroying it. Like there's the Burrell and his stooges are laughing at him, they're talking, he's trying to find out where they're coming from. And the scene where Rip gets the axe handle and he sees Zeus, and it's just like a cardboard cutout, which you can't tell it's not Zeus. It just sits perfect still and goes after him and goes right through the glass, and the glass shatters. That's just one of those things I remember always remembering about that movie.
Yeah, so and Burrell's watching on a monitor, like he can see all of it happen, but he's
and they got scared too, like the Stooges did at least.
All right, we have a pet peeves category. Everything is a pet peeve in this movie. Like there's there's nothing but problems with the story. So we'll skip that. We'll go to questions. Now I have some questions for you. I'm very interested to see what you think about this. So Hulk Hogan is not playing Hulk Hogan. He is playing Rip Thomas or whatever his name is, who is a kind of a ripoff of the Hulk Hogan character. Like maybe that's why his name was Rip, because he just ripped off Hulk Hogan. He had to play a version of himself. If you were Vince McMahon and you thought, okay, we want to do movies, we have this winning brand named Hulk Hogan. That brand is damn near a household name. Should this movie of No Holds Barred had been Hulk Hogan, the character of Hulk Hogan, standing up for the WWF?
Yeah, I originally thought that too. Like, why don't he just play himself? I mean, he was essentially playing the Hulk Hogan character. Just he called him a different name, and they changed his color of his tights. But he was Hulk Hogan. So, but maybe in their mind, well, if we do that, it's just it just says WWF project instead of we're trying to make a legitimate movie here,
I mean, today, if you're thinking about IP and you're thinking about like, how can we do more than one of these? I don't know if they were, because
they were.
You could do more than one of these, right? If it was successful.
Oh yeah, that's the mindset going in for sure.
I just wonder if they could have done the El Santo thing, right? El Santo versus all the Boogie Monsters,
Rip versus the vampires.
You just have all the bad guys, and it's just Hulk Hogan as Hulk Hogan, and just got to fake. That's essentially what he was doing as a wrestler, right? Oh, it's King Kong Bundy this month, and it's Andre the Giant. It's whoever the One Man Gang and Kamala and all these scary monsters, and you just keep doing that as No Holds Barred too. Hulk Hogan this time, he's got a face like I'm trying to think of who would have been like a big badass. Hulk Hogan and Brian Bosworth, No Holds Barred too. So I think that would have been
from Night Court.
I just think that would have been so much more interesting because then you turn him into, you start as a wrestler. This is kind of like Fast and Furious. They start as racing cars, and then they become like action stars, right? And then he just becomes an action star, and that's what it is. That's what he evolves to. But yeah, I thought that he should have just been Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
All right. So I had this question, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, but when Rip meets Sam, is he supposed to be a virgin? The way that he acts around her.
I don't know if he's supposed to be a virgin, but yeah, well, I guess he does act like he's never seen a woman before. Like, oh my gosh, so. But that could have been Hogan's range, of an actor. It's just like, that's all I know.
Yeah, I just thought it was like a little, like maybe they're like, oh, he's still like about the kids. Like he's got to be the ultimate, mild mannered, good mannered person.
Yeah.
And if he kind of like, cat called her or something, that's not the Hulk Hogan character, and that's not who we're marketing, this thing to.
Yeah.
Now the story of Brell trying to take Rip from NTN or whatever the company was, WWF, to the new television studio. Did they foretell Eric Bischoff taking Hulk Hogan to WCW?
Yeah. That you look at that way, yes, I think they did. Maybe they because in '89 wasn't Ted Turner starting, like there was some talks with Randy Savage in '89, I believe.
I think there was talks with Randy Savage. There would have been
Hart.
talks with Bret Hart like a couple years later. And I covered this in Observe This, but
Piper too, right?
Yeah, Piper too. Earlier in the year, Vince McMahon basically calls Ted Turner and he's like, hey man, we should not try to invade each other's talent. Like, it's really bad for the business. Like, we should, we need to keep these salaries low. If we try to, grab each other's talent, it's going to raise the salary level, and then we're going to have to pay more. Let's just keep, of course he's winning. So, he wants that to happen. But yeah, so he did have that conversation with Ted Turner in 1989. All right. Last question here for you. Did No Holds Barred
excuse me,
create the idea for mixed martial arts?
Ooh, that's a good. I mean, when I saw that, that's why I took the Battle of the Tough Guy. Was like, let's get the best, these tough guys from this sport and that combat sport, put them together in an octagon, which it was.
Yes.
And yeah, so I wonder if that definitely was a seed planted there.
And if you go back to 1993, the Wrestling Observer, when it covered the UFC, the subject or the category was NHB for No Holds Barred. That was what they categorized MMA as back then. Before,
and that's what UFC was called, right?
Yeah,
UFC was sponsored No Holds Barred. Yeah.
All right.
Sponsor just.
So here's some information. Now, some of this, what's published on the internet does not necessarily mean that it is necessarily true. So I will bring that up, but there's some things that I don't really believe in, and we'll talk about those. But if you go to the IMDb page and the trivia section for this movie, this is the first the first note in that section. This movie was produced by star Hulk Hogan and his boss, World Wrestling Federation head honcho Vince McMahon, only to be distributed by New Line Cinema after completion. I think that is probably true. I think that that part of that sentence, or that part of this paragraph, is true. This is the part where I have some issues with. When the first draft of the script was turned in, Hogan and McMahon disapproved of it, so they checked into a hotel in Reddington Beach, Florida, and stayed up for 72 hours rewriting the script together. Hogan said, now this is not in that line, but this is in just other lore of this movie. Hogan said he envisioned the fight scene with him and Zeus while he was on the can. And he had to close his eyes to envision the fight scene. So much so that because he had to have his eyes closed, he had to speak it out, and Vince was writing the scene down. Now, I go back to this Wrestling Observer message board poster who had the script and basically tried to timeline this thing. And he said the original script has the fight scene pretty much exactly how it turned out. So no surprise that Hogan may not have been telling the complete truth about what writing credits that they deserved. Vince McMahon in a 1997 Raw said that Hulk Hogan had promised him that he would pay back the salary for No Holds Barred if it didn't make any money. And Vince said that at that time Hogan had not paid him back for that promise. Let's talk about the match in the movie. It's December 27th, 1989. They're promoting a match, or they're promoting the video on demand, the pay-per-view purchase of No Holds Barred, and as a way to entice the viewers to rent the license to watch this pay-per-view. What you also got after the movie was a match with Hogan and Beefcake against Zeus and Randy Savage. So a rematch of the SummerSlam match that happened in August. And this match was inside of a steel cage. The price tag for this, I'll read this from the Observer. Titan has added a 2.5-hour pay-per-view show on Wednesday, December 27th, with a showtime of 2 p.m. Eastern, which would be the movie No Holds Barred, a video piece concerning the making of the movie, plus 2 main events, and they would be live matches. And the article, I guess Dave had gotten some sort of promotional material. The article stated the main event would include a Hulk Hogan title defense, but didn't list Zeus, as I'm sure they don't want that info out until after SummerSlam as the opponent. The show will have a retail price for $11.95, which was more than pay-per-view rentals were at that time. So Dave was like, they're trying to get people to pay more than normal for a movie rental, but at the same time, Vince couldn't completely undercut it because his pay-per-views were $20 or whatever at that time. So I think he found the happy medium. So originally, it sounds like it was supposed to be a one-on-one match between Hogan and Zeus that they were building up to.
Yeah, that's what I always thought I read too. But obviously, I think quickly they figured, good old tiny Lister, he did a good job at the tags, but not as a one-on-one guy.
So SummerSlam, we both rewatched the match with Hogan and Beefcake versus Savage and Zeus. And, like I said, it was uber successful on pay-per-view. It did, WrestleMania did something like 750,000 buys, and supposedly this did around 600, maybe a little more, maybe a little less for SummerSlam. And Survivor Series was actually like a little bit, like maybe 60% of SummerSlam. So by the time SummerSlam came around, I think the fan base had kind of been like, okay, we're kind of done with the Zeus thing. But what I wanted to ask you was, if the idea is Zeus and Savage in this cage match, why do you think that they had Hogan and Beefcake go over Zeus at SummerSlam? Like, because you could have pinned Savage, and Zeus could have still been sort of like, oh, like Hogan still can't win one over on this guy. Because then you go to Survivor Series, and the way that they protect Zeus at Survivor Series is he's choking Hogan, and then he pushes the referee, and they kick him out of the match. Like it's almost like a bait and switch. He's kicked out of the match so quickly.
Yeah.
And so then you get to the cage, but by then you've already seen Zeus has been pinned by Hogan, with the leg drop at SummerSlam. So I can't imagine, like, fans were like, oh, they'd already seen him lose.
Yeah. Well, I think they probably had an idea for, like I said, Hogan and Zeus as a one-on-one match. But I think quickly they realized they can't do that match. I think they quickly realized this might be a one and done thing. We'll just steal steal a house, as they say, with this pay-per-view, and you're not going to beat Savage because Savage has to still draw on the house shows, right, and future pay-per-views later on. So I don't think Savage would ever go for losing in this situation. He's fine to be in the ring general, keep it all together, but then you don't want to beat him because he's going to be a major player for you going forward. So I think this is, in their mind, they thought this one and done. My theory is that come no Survivor Series, they needed something. I no doubt why Survivor Series is down, because the Warrior Andre feud is been done. It was already been done, and we've seen it, right? I mean, Hogan and DiBiase again after so they had to bring back Zeus, and that's why they shot the angle within the match of Zeus, injuring Hogan, not enough to injure him, get him carried out. No, but like,
he still won the
devastating
match
enough to get disqualified, to get kicked out of the match. Because I think that's when they had the idea, okay, we can do this match. We do the Survivor Series, do the thing there, and then we'll do the match, the movie in December. But it wasn't live, though. It was taped.
No, it was taped. I think it was a wrestling challenge taping or something.
Yeah, it's like, I think December 7th was actually, or December 7th or December 13th or something like that was actually the date of that tag match.
Were you confused with the rules? I was confused with the rules of this match.
Of the cage match? Well, it was escape the cage, but for some reason they decided to do, Hogan still pinning Zeus at the end, which is okay. I guess, whatever. I thought this match was a lot better than I remember. I haven't seen it in a very, very long time, and I thought it was actually really good.
The cage match. Do you like the cage match better than the SummerSlam match?
No, SummerSlam match was a lot better because it was a little longer. Savage is just on fire. Savage looked great in this match as well. In the cage match. But
Savage, I don't remember him jumping from the cage. I don't remember that.
I don't remember that either. I don't remember him getting color in this match.
Yeah.
That was pretty shocking at the time.
The other thing I forgot about was Elizabeth coming out at SummerSlam. I completely forgot about that.
No, I remember because this is like SummerSlam 88, the first SummerSlam. She did the panty reveal. DiBiase's never seen a woman before.
Bottoms, the bikini bottoms are supposed to be an itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot bikini, but it was not.
But this was the first time she got physically involved. That she countered Cher Martel, who also was unbelievable,
amazing
in this cage match. Like, just getting involved. She's one of the greatest managers of all time, no doubt about it. She's definitely top 10, if not top 5, really, just as a performer. But yeah, I thought, for how limited he was, I think Zeus was fine, like, especially in an attack. You could hide him in a tag. SummerSlam, you could tell, a little rough. But I think by this match, the cage match, I thought he did good. He threw better clotheslines than half the guys today, doing their little rainbow, let the guy go over him, under them, excuse me. He's throwing a line like you should throw a line. Like, hey, the guy doesn't duck, F him, it's his fault.
There were some moments in that match, though, where he did not know exactly what he was supposed to do next. Like, he would stand still and he would kind of just be intimidating. And he's literally waiting for Hogan to get up so that he knows what to do next. Like, there were a lot of moments like that. But I will say,
and there's moments where Savage has to come and talk him in the ear and what's coming up next, which is great because in a real match, you would communicate like that, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, Tom Caster and I used to talk about that, and we were, we're like, why doesn't tag team guys communicate with each other? It's like there's no communication. It's just like they're watching each other. Instead of like, you should be like, yeah, slam him. You should do this, or stuff like that, right?
Yeah. And so, okay, so the thing that he would do well, though, he made you believe that he was a badass. And part of that was because he looked like he was insane. Like, there was a the lazy eye and the way that he shrieked when he talked. he didn't really talk in complete sentences.
Hogan. That's what he.
Yeah, I always liked it. He didn't call him Brutus. He called him the Beefcake Barber. That's what he called
yeah,
Brutus.
yeah.
And so he looked legitimately like a crazy man. And going back to when you and I were younger, the the Night Stalker and like all these killers were like glorified by media. And so you're like, oh, this insane, this insane person. Now here's a problem with this movie, though, or with the movie and sort of bringing him in to canon in the storylines. There's an interview with Mean Gene and Kurt Fuller as Brell on one of the shows. And Kurt Fuller is essentially saying Zeus is the star of this movie, not Hulk Hogan. So they're telling us that this is actually a movie, but that Zeus is actually Zeus, and Hulk Hogan is not Rip. He is Hulk Hogan. So half of the thing is the movie character come to real life, but the Hogan character is Rip. So there's I can imagine, fans were probably pretty confused at that point, but you have to buy the idea that the character from the movie is mad that he wasn't the star and he is coming to get what he was supposed to. I don't know. It's a little bit of a stretch as to tell the story of why Zeus does not like Hulk Hogan.
But wasn't there they changed the narrative a little bit with like there was the fight scene, Hogan broke Zeus's nose.
I think that happened in real life.
Yeah, and like they actually, because I remember them even showing like that clip of that one of the punch or something like that, and they used that as like Zeus coming back for revenge but I remember being excited for the SummerSlam match because I want to see what this guy could do.
Yeah,
what's he gonna do in a real wrestling match? Well, real as my world of real wrestling.
Yeah,
and I remember like being like, I was expecting more moves or something, and he didn't do much because he couldn't do much. I didn't know at the time. But I remember, God, this must have been like 15, 16 years ago when I rewatched SummerSlam 89. And I was already in the wrestling business and stuff at the time. And watching Savage's performance in that match just blew me away. Like, just what he did in that match. Like, basically wrestled that match, on his own, doing everything he can, bumping for everyone.
One man show, man. Because Brutus historically great character, but maybe if you go back to the Dream Team, he did a lot more because Valentine was his partner, and but at this point, he's just doing. He's doing.
I mean, he's not doing Tiger Mask shit, but he's
but he's punching, he's doing the high knee, and he's selling. Like there's not much. It's the character is so over,
of course,
that he doesn't have to do that much, and so it's there's usually a lot of times what you would do is you have this thing and you got Savage on one side, and then maybe you have the other person on the other side who's the kind of the one who's gonna wrestle and really sell really well. Beefcake wasn't the best seller. Hogan's a way better seller than Beefcake. So like it was a little interesting, but Brutus is homies, so the homies helps the homies. Savage is amazing.
Yeah, Zeus and Savage had an awesome. I thought double team move, the bear hug, and then Savage came out with the double axe handle. I thought that was cool.
Double axe handle.
Now they would have got creative, did like the Vegematic and have like, Zeus hold out Brutus while Savage comes off the top rope elbow. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, there is if you go back to the, I would say pre No Holds Barred observers, I think they think that if the movie is good, Zeus and Hogan one-on-one is going to be the main event at WrestleMania 6.
Wow.
But the movie didn't make enough money for it to be that big of a deal, so they did not go that way, and it becomes Hogan and Warrior.
It's good to be confident like that or be hopeful for something like that, but but I'm glad we got what we got with the Warrior Hogan match. though
Yeah.
business didn't really do that well with the Warriors champion. But Hogan did come back to save the day with the program there quick.
A couple other notes before we move on. In Linda Bolea's book, she, in sort of a very suggestive, rumorish way, said that Hogan and Joan Severance may have had an affair while they were filming. With that sexual chemistry, I don't buy that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think. Yeah, I can see Hogan, going for that, go make some moves. Real Hogan, Terry Bollea.
Linda Bolea learned from the master, though, when it came to telling the truth. So, well, who knows? That is just out there.
I don't think they know the truth about their lives. Imagine their stories at the dinner table. That would have been great. Well, we saw Hogan was best, but I'm talking about, man, wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall in the Hogan household just to see what they're really like? But sad that they broke up.
Sad. A very young and unknown Marcus Alexander Bagwell can be seen as an extra in several scenes. How old would he have been? Like a teenager? Like a kid?
Was he in the scene with the? I didn't go back and I read that, and I didn't go back and look. But was he like one of the kids during the charity event thing?
That's what I was thinking, but I couldn't find him, so I didn't know.
He had to be. Sure. I don't know how he was in 1991, but I remember he told Missy Hyatt he was 21 on the Clash of Champions promo. But yeah, so he had to be like a younger kid at the time, I think.
Yeah. The box office. So it sounds like they did about 16 million at the box office. The opening weekend did about 5, a little bit less than 5, which is not fantastic. It sounds like it cost Vince maybe about half originally, but then there's like marketing stuff, and at 16 million, he probably came out even-ish, close to even. But by using Zeus, he probably did come out a little bit on top because SummerSlam was very successful. Survivor Series, not as much, but you got 3 matches plus interviews plus the Saturday Night Main Event stuff. So you got some program out of him that actually made some money. So I do kind of wonder if you total up everything, if he did actually come out ahead when it came to what he spent.
Yeah, with the SummerSlam for sure. Survivor Series, I guess I don't know how much did you see how much the match, the movie pay-per-view did? Got that far yet? Or
no, I don't think those numbers were as easy to get back in those days.
I watched that live. Well, not the movie. I went to my buddy again, Chatting's house, and it was during winter break or Christmas break.
Yeah,
is when that came out. So I remember like his parents were at work, and I'm like, dude, we gotta watch this. We gotta watch the match, and we put the pay-per-view on, and he had that black box,
Yep.
And he was just like, we're like, all right. So we went and played. I think we shot hoops, whatever, in the front of the house. Waited for like the match to start. So then we watched the match.
Yeah, I saw it as well. I don't think I saw it live, but my cousin recorded it for me. So then I went to his house and we were able to watch it. But I knew it was taped, and I knew there was no way that Zeus was winning this match because like it was the send-off. Like I had known that much at that point. All right, so reviews. There's not a lot of reviews out there on the internet. There's a Siskel, there's a Roger Ebert review that someone posted on Reddit, and then it got deleted, and I couldn't find it. But Gene Siskel remarked that No Holds Barred is utterly lacking in the campy quality of the World Wrestling Federation telecasts.
Wow.
Roger Ebert, in his review of 1991 Suburban Commando, said that despite the fact that Hulk Hogan's public image is often aimed at children, his first film, No Holds Barred, was surprisingly violent, sexist, and blood-soaked.
Fair review.
Yeah, I think those are fair. Obviously, they both gave it a thumbs down when they did actually review. I think there's YouTube footage of the Siskel and Ebert at the movies where they review No Holds Barred.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great show.
All right, so who would you put as the MVP of this movie?
Kurt Fuller, my guy.
I think so as well.
He's just so over the
I
top.
think he's the guy.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters in television was Woody from Spike, and he's just like he's great. So yeah, so Kurt Fuller, he's my guy. He's did a great job.
I think it was either WrestleCon or maybe it was StarCast. They tried to get him to come, and he said he would not.
He did, like I said, if you go on look up Brian Solomon's podcast on the Vanguard Network, Katie Network. He interviewed Sean Roday, now Rodriguez from Psych, and Kurt Fuller from Psych.
I like that guy. That guy was also in like a This Is Us like show that was on ABC. Yes. I forget what that show was called, but that show was pretty good.
Yeah, Katrina liked that. My wife Katrina liked that show as well. And he talked to him about No Holds Barred, and I didn't get a chance to go back and listen to, but it was a really great episode. You should definitely, I think you'd really enjoy it. Brian Solomon does a great job. And
Brian Solomon's Gorilla Monsoon book is coming out at some point.
Yeah, and his book, The Sheep, is definitely
I can't wait for that one.
But yeah, I'd go back and listen to it. It's really good, and there's definitely a wrestling tie-in because of Kurt Fuller, but also Sean Roday Rodriguez because he's done appearances and he's a fan of WWE and does some stuff on Raw. So that's pretty cool. Cool podcast.
All right, end of the day, you giving this a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Thumbs up because it's just nostalgic, the time of my life. But thumbs down as a movie. But for me, it was a lot of fun to go back and watch this movie. But even for me, it gave me an excuse to kind of like check out that SummerSlam match again, the Survivor Series match, and of course the match and the movie. If you want to see that, we talked about, you found it online somewhere on like
Daily Motion or something.
But if you go on Peacock, type in Super Tape. It's like the Super Tape 1. Hogan's on the cover with like a cage. And that
what other matches are on that tape, by the way? I may just watch that tape just to watch that tape.
I didn't. Was the whole thing on the Bushwhackers of multi matches and a profile. I didn't. There's a really good Ron Garvin, Mr. Perfect match to open it. I started watching that. There's a Rick Rude, Tito Santana match. Sure, I remember else on it, but yeah, it looked like a fun show. I might go back and watch some of those matches.
I will also give it a thumbs down, but I will caveat by saying when we did the Iron Claw, which was our first review, then we did the Mickey Rourke Wrestler, and we kind of compared it, and we both agreed that the Mickey Rourke Wrestler was a little bit better. Even though we both liked the Iron Claw, we gave both of those movies thumbs up. Then we did Ready to Rumble, and we gave that a thumbs down. It was the worst portrayal of pro wrestling and pro wrestling fans that you could ever watch. No Holds Barred is so much better than Ready to Rumble. Even as a thumbs down, it is so much better. And I think people would get a big kick out of it if they watched it today and they had never seen it. I don't think they would get the same kick out of Ready to Rumble if they watched it and they'd never seen it.
No. Yeah, this was a lot better than Ready to Rumble for sure.
All right. Next movie, we are going to do the Vern Gagne, Ed Asner version of The Wrestler, which is it'll also give me a chance to ask Dave Meltzer his opinion on some stuff because he really enjoys that movie. Like that's that's the time frame for him as a young man, really being into wrestling. Yeah,
there's a lot of good footage of the 70s wrestling with Stevens and Billy Robinson, Baron von Raschke, stuff like that. Yeah.
So we're going to do that one next. I know we had originally wanted to do this on like a monthly cadence, but schedules wise and stuff, we've had to delay a little bit. So I don't think we'll have the next one up in the next week or so, which would keep us on that wavelength. But I mean, I would like to stay on that cadence. If not, no biggie. We'll just do it in June and we'll be fine. But hopefully we'll be able to do these on video like this one. And if you were watching it on video and hit that little subscribe button, that really helps us. And then on the podcast side, we have all of the other films that we've done already with the Iron Claw, Ready to Rumble, The Wrestler, and did we do another one, or was that all of them?
That's it.
And then this one as No Holds Barred. So next one is the Vern Gagne Wrestler, and we still have other movies on tap, like the Paradise Alley, the Sylvester Stallone movie that we want to do.
Mr. Nanny.
I had my list and now I can't find my list of movies, but there was All the Marbles.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was here I found my list. Night in the City, which we heard was like the best one. It's a little older, so we'll have to find that. I think it's actually on YouTube. And then I'm kind of interested if we actually get there. There's a movie called Body Slam that I've always wanted to watch. So that, and then The One and Only with Henry Winkler as well. So those are on the list. But yeah, so this will be, we're going to keep doing this, keep enjoying some of these old wrestling movies, and we'll review them. And hopefully you all are watching them as we do it. So, all right. For John LaRocca, I am Double G. This has been Popcorn and Piledrivers. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.